What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of It's Not a Phase, Mom. As always, I am your host, Zach Cronin, and today we're going to be talking about Jimmy Butler. It seems to be that Jimmy Butler is going to be the hottest commodity at this year's trade deadline. The 35-year-old is in his final fully guaranteed season with the Miami Heat, and his time in South Beach might be coming to an end one way or another. Reporting from ESPN's Brian Windhorst alludes to this being the organization's decision, saying, quote, "I think Jimmy Butler's preference would be to sign an extension in Miami. Pat Riley came out at the end of last season and said that's not what the Heat were doing." The flames of this rumor recently got stoked by Shams Charania, who reported the list of Jimmy Butler's preferred trade destinations: Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, and Golden State. Drama Frogs ate good in the subsequent days after this report because Bernie Lee, Jimmy Butler's agent, came out and slammed Sharania's reporting, calling it, quote, "complete and utter made up bullshit." I do believe that Butler and his camp yearn for a deal to get done. Miami is not a contender, which contrasts all of Butler's preferred landing spots. Lee's issue in this instance stems from, in my estimation, one of two things. The first being that Lee supplied Shams with this information, thinking that it would be reported with anonymity, which it clearly was not. Bernie Lee was mentioned by name in Shams's report. The other is that this information was leaked too early. If both sides believe there's no future in their union, it's in everybody's best interest to get a deal done. Not only does Jimmy Butler get his wish and gets to play with the contender, if that's if the Heat organization actually abide by those wishes, but it's also in Pat Riley's best interest to go with the best deal, and that's the one that allows him to recoup as many assets as possible. Jimmy Butler in his 14th season is still an impactful player. At the time of this writing, he's averaging about 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, while posting a career best effective field goal percentage of 57.5%. Miami, however, has gotten off to a rather slow start and only recently began winning games. They've won 4 of their last 5 at the time of this recording, collecting impressive victories over Phoenix and Cleveland. While the Heat on paper may not look like contenders, they've proven that they can compete with and topple some of the best teams in the NBA. Furthermore, we're only 2 seasons removed from their Cinderella run to the finals as the 7th seed. With that said, I think that Miami has reached their ceiling with this group. With an average age of 28 years old and minimal championship prospects, this is the best time to consider prioritizing your youth. Tyler Hero can cement himself as the undisputed number 1 option for this franchise and continue to build on what is turning out to be the best season of his career. Heading into next season, he will be just 25 years old. Trading Butler, of course, is easier said than done. While contending teams would undeniably benefit from his services, we are no longer in the landscape of having to acquire as many stars as possible to compete for a title. Recent champions have established the new formula of 2 stars plus adequate depth. 3 stars generally means that you won't have enough production coming off of the bench. Obviously, the ideal is 3 stars plus depth, but that's typically unfeasible in the trade market. That's something that you have to go out and do in free agency. This takes us to Phoenix, arguably the best of Butler's preferred landing spots. The Suns are the lone 3-star contender here, but buoyed their championship aspirations with a tremendous offseason where they signed Tyus Jones, Mason Plumlee, and Monte Morris. Despite those acquisitions, their season hasn't gotten off to the start that a lot of us were expecting. They're currently 14-11 and the 6th seed in the Western Conference. However, for the sake of suspense, I omitted a crucial piece of information. Kevin Durant has been healthy for only 15 games, and they are 13-2 when he plays. To me, Butler landing in Arizona is probably the unlikeliest option. The Suns cannot trade for Jimmy Butler straight up without including Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, or Devin Booker. Of course, a third team could get involved and alleviate some of this financial pressure, but I don't really feel that it's necessary, even if Phoenix feels that Butler would be an upgrade over Bradley Beal as their number 3. I think he would be. He's as capable of an offensive player as Beal and is certainly an upgrade on the defensive end. But I'd be hesitant to make this move because when this unit is healthy, they are objectively one of the best teams in the NBA. Things are working. And when things are working, you do not fuck with them. Dallas finds themselves in a similar situation. While adding Butler would potentially make them a slightly better team, I don't know if it's by a sizable enough margin to justify the financial hassle. The Mavericks would also have to put together a ton of salary to make this trade work. And it's salary that's tied up in effective role players like PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Also, again, guys that Dallas brought in last season to bolster their championship run. The other Texas team on Butler's list, the Rockets, stands to gain the most from Butler's services, particularly on offense. As a perimeter scorer, Butler is a reliable and steady option. He'd also bring a much improved three-point shot, even if those attempts feel like a chore. Houston's woes on offense are exacerbated by their poor shooting. They're unable to throw fertilizer onto their lawn. Not only that, a big three of Jimmy Butler, Jalen Green, and Alperen Şengün would be quite forceful, especially if Jalen Green found himself getting higher quality looks because of all the attention that defenses give to Jimmy Butler. He remains an impressive defender as well. He'd fit right in with the Rockets on that side of the ball, and that's been the part of their game that's led to this terrific start for them. Now, let me pose a question onto you, the viewer. Am I or am I not going to talk about matching salary in this next part of the video? If you guessed yes, unfortunately, you are correct. The Rockets, however, have the path of least resistance among these first three teams. Fred VanVleet's enormous deal virtually matches Butler's, leaving Houston with only $6 million left to match. Speaking exclusively monetarily, the Rockets could do this trade with a package of Fred VanVleet and Jock Landale. I know that Pat Riley would decline that trade immediately and send a drone to the Rockets arena before he hangs up the phone, but I'm using it to highlight Houston's flexibility. Dillon Brooks and Steven Adams could be used as bargaining chips as well, but GM Raphael Stone explained in an interview on SiriusXM how the Rockets, quote, definitely do not intend to change anything, and I would be shocked if something changes this season. Stone has the perfect mindset. Houston does not need to make a win-now move because their future is one of the league's brightest. This core that they have is so good. And not only are they already so good at so many different things, but they have a tremendous amount of room to grow. The Rockets remain the NBA's 8th youngest team. They have an average age of 25.3, despite employing a 38-year-old Jeff Green, a 31-year-old Steven Adams, a 30-year-old Fred VanVleet, and a 29-year-old Dillon Brooks. The flip side to this is that in any potential talks with these two teams, Houston possessing a copious amount of young talent means that Pat Riley is going to eye this young talent. I'm thinking of someone like Amin Thompson or Tari Eason. Pat Riley would not do this deal without bringing in one or maybe even two of these young guys. It's just not worth it for the Rockets to mortgage their future for a few seasons of Jimmy Butler, who's going to be 36 years old. The last of Jimmy Butler's quartet that I'm going to talk about are the Golden State Warriors, who I'm going to refer to as Jimmy Carter for this segment because this dynasty will just not fucking die. I did a video about a month ago talking about how frightening the Warriors were again, and in typical commentator curse fashion, they went on a wicked skid in the aftermath of posting this video. Since that went live, they've gone 5-9, but there is still reason to believe that they have a shot, albeit a slim one, at an NBA title. The Warriors' offense is not what we're used to. They have an offensive rating this season of 113.3, which is the 14th best mark in the NBA. That rate lags behind what they did for the past two seasons, where they finished 8th overall both of those years, but it's better than the offensive rating they had in 2022 when they won the title. Golden State has the luxury of leaning on Steph Curry whenever they have even a little bit of inconsistency, and he combined with their elite defense is enough to keep them in contention conversations. The Warriors' recent skid, however, is due to factors beyond their control. De'Anthony Melton went down on November 15th with a season-ending ACL injury. He also got traded, so he wasn't going to be coming back for them either way. His loss caused suffering on both ends. Melton is an extraordinary perimeter defender as well as a reliable floor spacer who is averaging 2.2 made threes per game at a rate of 37%. Golden State included Melton in their package for Dennis Schroeder, who they acquired from the Brooklyn Nets. They acquired him, I'm guessing, because they needed a secondary shot creator alongside Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler produces at the same level of Schroeder and then some. He's capable of working as an off-ball threat as well as a shot creator. Additionally, there would be some interesting wrinkles that Golden State could utilize him in. I'm thinking in the dunker spot, similar to Aaron Gordon, perhaps the Scottie Pippen of Aaron Gordon's, if you will. Additionally, Butler defends at a level near or even above De'Anthony Melton. For Mike Dunleavy, the question that he'll have to ask himself revolves around the Warriors' future. Steph Curry will be 37 in 2025. Draymond Green will be 35 next year. Both of them have 2 guaranteed years left on their contracts. The title window is closing, and this could be their last opportunity for a championship, even though we've been saying that for about 3 or 4 seasons now. But trading for Jimmy Butler signals that you are all in. And going all in means parting ways with any young talent that you were looking to build around. Unlike Houston, the Warriors aren't brimming with young talent, but they do have Jonathan Kuminga. While Kuminga's ceiling has reduced a little bit, he's proven himself to be a productive contributor, and Pat Riley would almost certainly have his eyes on him. Going to Miami could bring lower expectations as well. Kuminga would no longer be expected to receive the torch from Steph Curry and be the face of a franchise. Instead, he'd complement Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. Not to sound too reductive, but I feel like this trade comes down to whether or not the Warriors feel comfortable in building around Jonathan Kuminga. If they do, he stays. If they don't, he's gone. The Warriors do also have the luxury of owning their first round picks in 6 of the next 7 drafts. They could part with half of those assets and still be fairly optimistic about the future. I'm beginning to feel like that skit in The Simpsons, the Say the Line Bart one, because I have to fucking talk about matching salary one more fucking time, and I can just feel my brain turning into mush at the thought of having to do any more calculations. And I already did these calculations. As I've done with all the others, I'm going to make this as simple as possible. If Kuminga is the centerpiece of this trade, Golden State has to attach $40 million alongside him to make sure that everything is square, which would almost certainly include trading either Draymond Green or Andrew Wiggins. My money is, of course, on Andrew Wiggins, as well as some combination of 2 of their mid-level earners. This includes Dennis Schroeder, Kevon Looney, Gary Payton, Buddy Hield, and Kyle Anderson. Other teams have been linked to Butler as well, but I don't know how substantive any of those reports are. The Lakers, of course, have been mentioned, even though it seems like Rob Pelinka does not know how to pick up the phone and just sleeps through negotiations for any notable player. I did also see a report and hear from Shams himself that the Brooklyn Nets are going to be in the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. However, that would only occur in free agency. The Nets simply just don't have the assets to make a trade for Jimmy Butler. They will, however, have more than $60 million in cap space this summer, and that is a different video for a different day. Among the 4 teams on Butler's wish list, I believe the Warriors are the likeliest to make a trade, but it does feel kind of like a toss-up to me. I don't want to definitively say that Butler will or will not be traded because it's impossible to gauge. However, I am leaning a little bit more towards the idea of him being traded? I'm leaning towards yes, because I do feel, as I mentioned at the beginning, that Butler's camp would rather a trade get done. And there are teams with the ability to make an offer for him. It also, again, as I mentioned at the top, it doesn't make sense for Miami not to try to get a deal done because they know that Butler isn't going to re-sign with them. I am remaining slightly reluctant because it's not easy to trade for a supermax player. There are a lot of moving pieces. It gets highly involved trying to offload or acquire a guy who's bringing $50 million dollars into your accounting department, even if they're as talented as Jimmy Butler is. Certain organizations have the means. It just comes down to their willingness. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. Thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, everything I'm associated with is down in the description box below. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video as well. Drop a comment down below. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you do any of those three things, you will become my new favorite person. And with that, I will see y'all in the next one.